There is a really big deal being made out of a breaking story from investigative reporter Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein fame about 21 Republican senators who privately have been saying anti-Trump things. And I am here to tell you, I do not care. If they don't say it publicly, and they didn't say it publicly for the last 4 years, who cares that they were privately willing to say it to Carl Bernstein? There's a couple possibilities here. Either they weren't saying it publicly because for a while they supported Trump, or they weren't saying it publicly because they thought that it was better for their own careers to shut their mouths. Either way, their silence was terrible for the country for the last 4 years. But we'll come back to that, okay? Carl Bernstein tweeted yesterday, and dozens of articles were written about this. The 21 Republican senators who have privately expressed their disdain for Trump are Portman, Alexander, Sass, Blunt, Collins, Murkowski, Cornyn, Thune, Romney, Braun, Young, Tim Scott, Rick Scott, Rubio, Grassley, Burr, Toomey, McSally, Moran, Roberts, and Shelby. Of the people on Bernstein's list, some did actually criticize Trump publicly, like Ben Sass, John Cornyn occasionally, Lisa Murkowski, certainly Mitt Romney. But I have to tell you, I'm finding myself completely underwhelmed by this. Donald Trump has represented an existential threat to the American system of democracy and government and way of life for 4 years. A couple of senators have mildly criticized Donald Trump, and even the ones that did a little more harshly, Mitt Romney, for example, John Kasich, within days of Joe Biden winning, they went right back to saying, my goal is stopping Medicare for all. We've got to stop tax increases. We've got to deal with the debt. We have to, reduce business regulations. So if anyone expects me to praise Republican senators who privately criticize Donald Trump, give me a break, guys. Imagine if from day one of this presidency, or 6 months in, whenever it was abundantly clear to everybody that this was a disaster, imagine if early on 21 Republican senators had actually stood up regularly and strongly criticizing Donald Trump. That actually could have made a difference. Instead, now that Joe Biden has already won, we hear, 21 of them said things in private about Trump to Carl Bernstein. Give me a break. These people are pathetic. Now, one other aspect of this. Trump and Republicans love to say it's the left that doesn't allow dissenting opinions, and it's the left that doesn't want to engage in the battle of ideas. These 21 Republicans, if it is true that they really didn't like what Donald Trump was doing, they partially stayed quiet because they were too scared to say anything. They were afraid of being outed publicly as not liking Donald Trump when Trump was still riding high. This is what we call profiles in cowardice. They aided and abetted Trump. And if indeed they felt this all along, they have to be held accountable now for how Donald Trump has debased democracy for 4 years. And think back to impeachment, guys. Everyone but Romney, who did vote to convict on one count on impeachment, if these other 20 Republican senators had voted to convict Trump on impeachment, they'd have been able to remove him, and they wouldn't have had to worry about the repercussions of coming out against Donald Trump. Truly pathetic. None of these people should be held up as heroes. In fact, what they are is disingenuous. If indeed nearly half of the Republican senators in the Senate privately were disturbed, distraught, and against what Donald Trump was doing, what they need to be what we need to be pointing the finger to is that they were completely disingenuous in public and continuing to support Donald Trump. Completely pathetic. I'm glad we learned about it. These are not heroes. These are not our friends. And as we saw from Mitt Romney and John Kasich within 24 hours of the election, they obviously and predictably, as we've been saying for years, went right back to the exact type of Republicans they were before Donald Trump. I want to let you know that our sponsor, Vincero Watches, is having a massive holiday sale on all of their products right now, and you can take advantage of it by going to davidpakman.com/watch. A brand new high quality wristwatch really is the perfect way to add something fresh to your style, whether it's for you or a gift for someone else. Vincero is a brand that has a serious dedication to the craft of watchmaking, which is really evident when you look closely at their watches. I wear Vincero watches myself. Lately, I've been wearing one from their Icon Automatic collection. It's the mesh matte black watch, and I love the sleek, minimalist design. Their watches are actually sold at a fair price. Their mission has always been to make a wristwatch from high-end materials, but one that everyday people can afford. And that's why they have over 25,000 five-star reviews, because you won't find a better made watch for this great of a price anywhere else. You can get big holiday discounts on all of their products right now and free shipping when you go to davidpakman.com/watch. I've put the link right underneath this video.